what Monica does almost can't be done. It's one of those questions like, what color is the sky? Because she's involved in a number of different aspects of the music industry that, as we've talked about, so many different things being intertwined and intertangled and related, that there's a lot of gray area, and she's involved in a lot of different aspects of this. That's fair to say.
Absolutely.
And what was it you just said to me about either be scared or
quit?
Or quit, yeah. What we were told. No, come on now. It wasn't too negative.
No, be squared.
Be squared. That's what happens to get
No, really be innovative. Be scared or be innovative. Get a clue as to what's happening, how it's changing, because the music business has changed incredibly even in the last 5 years. And with the advent of social media, oh my gosh, really anything is possible. If you can imagine it, it can happen. And you just get people behind you and good material and sell it. So, but we were thinking, well, what's the theme for today? And I came here, I'm on my phone, I'm trying not to read text because it's now illegal, on my car, thinking, okay, I'm going to be really good about this and just stay focused. And I realized that all that adrenaline that comes into how do I make this work? How does that happen? How do we actually create more income for the people that we represent? And it really is to simply continue to be innovative. So I can either get scared and go into my shell, not talk to anybody, not return phone calls or emails, or I can try to figure it out. So, but I should back up and say that my company is called Milk Money Consulting, and we've been based in Atlanta since 2001. And specifically, we manage the tech guys. They're not always sexy. They're not always on stage. In fact, they're never on stage. But they're the ones who get the records done and really do all the back-end babysitting for many of the artists and many of the producers. So my skill, or what I think my skill, is matching people. And what I would say to all of you is that if you're interested in doing this, the people skills are probably the most important about anything that is theory. Be willing to listen and be willing to match people that may not think they come from the same background. For example, I worked in a studio in Philadelphia. I ran a rock studio for 7 years. I worked with all the big hair bands, including like Cinderella or Britney Fox and all these guys that really date me, so just know that I have a good hairstylist. And and at the time, you had these guys, and they're in their rocker gear. They came in with 18-wheelers worth of material, of drums and amps and all this stuff, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is my first experience in this world, really doing a record from start to finish, and it became one of the biggest records ever. And I'm thinking, I have no idea. I'm going to fake it to make it. I'm going to memorize all the gear, and I'm going to figure it out as I go. And all I'm going to do is listen to the guys and ask questions as I go. My background is in economics. I speak a couple of languages. I like people, and so I made it work. I didn't have the luxury, really, of having a class like this where people could actually talk cogently about how does the music business work. And even though people are going to come through and say, oh, yeah, you know what, do this, this, and this, assemble your tool belt, go out firing, it still can be however you want to do it. The key thing is to, in my opinion, is to kind of remain true to yourself. Like, know what your internal compass says. If somebody is too good to be true, they are. If there's a huge bullshit pile there, avoid it. It's just not worth the drama. It's worth going the extra mile to make somebody happy. I got a call probably in the late 80s that I got from Dallas Austin, who then produced Boyz II Men and TLC and the pop urban side of the world. And he was a kid, he was a teenager, and he called from a studio in Philadelphia, totally scared. And I shouldn't say that. I should say he was not knowing what his next steps should be, because they needed to do transfers and slaves. And at the time, in the analog world, you needed to have lots of gear to do that. And so the studio that I was running had that to offer. They called me to say, hey, we really, really need to work at your studio. I'm like, yeah, but it's 10 o'clock at night. I really need to go home. And you want to do this? I've got a lockout, which means that nobody else can come in. How the hell am I going to do this? Thought about it. I like the sound of these guys' voices. they sound like they're legitimate and real. All right, how do we do this? And I managed to arrange a session last minute that could have cost me my job, really, because I wasn't supposed to allow anybody else in. But I got my assistants on it, and they handled the technical aspect of it. Then I thought, okay, well, if you guys come up at 8 o'clock in the morning, I know it's early, I can get you in, it'll take 2 hours. Can you get up here? I'm like, what? I said, yeah, you have to get on the train or get a cab or take your car and actually drive somewhere and come to the studio. Man, I'm like, you don't have any money, do you? No. Do you have cab fare? No. So, okay, fine. I'll come down and get you. So I got my butt out of bed in the rush hour traffic and sat in their hotel lobby, or thought I would until I realized that they were still asleep. And first time ever trying to meet somebody is knocking on their door and seeing them in their underwear. And I'm like, this bodes for another kind of experience. But really, just again, following my gut and thinking, not because I wanted anything, but these guys needed help. Get them rolling. I got a PO, going through the regular business steps, making sure that I could get the actual session authorized happened the night before I left. So I knew it was going to happen, but that extra mile of you never know where it's going to go. And later on down the road, after Boyz II Men did well, he started working with Madonna, TLC had happened. They said, okay, I'm broke. My studio is going under. How do I fix this? Do you want to move to Atlanta? And I was like, okay, sure, let's do it, because Atlanta had really started to become a hub with the emergence of people like LaFace as record companies, and even before that. These folks really had started the seeds of making a different kind of music happen here in Georgia, and there are so many talented musicians that originate out of here. So you never know where the next thing is going to come. And then as I came to Atlanta, brought that studio out of bankruptcy, that's where the economic side came in handy, so I was able to actually apply something that I learned, which is amazing. I still thank my dad for that one. So then I got a call from Will Smith's brother. Do you guys know Will Smith, the actor? Yeah, so I know, right? So I got a call, hey, this is Harry Smith, and I'm looking to talk to you. Well, you want to book some time? Sure, I can't wait to have you guys here at the studio. That'd be big fun, Oh, no, we want you to come back up to Philly and do basically a cost-benefit analysis of a studio site that we want to set up in Philadelphia. Damn, really? I was trying not to show my enthusiasm. Really? Okay, But again, I had met them. We had done several projects together, and it was always just about being clear and honest and setting up expectations so that we weren't, promising more than we could actually deliver, which is a pretty big deal. And again, the idea of just doing the right thing at the right time, you never know where it's going to go. Because, have all of you kind of been through this program together? Like, is this the first time you're all meeting in the same place in this class? And so if you look at each other, do you realize that you'll probably be the next generation of music business people? Has that sunk in? Because that's a big deal. Like, the way that you are able to approach and handle each other is like a microcosm of the bigger mud pile, and there's plenty of room to roll around and have some fun with it. But it's really important to stay in touch with each other and to network and to do that thing, because you never know who's going to turn up to be the person that you need. And it could be, you guys, are you separated into, some of you who are production only, like CD, just the music production, or, okay, then I'll ask it a different way. Who here is interested in doing management of some sort, either artist or studio? Well, that's not too many. Probably smart. And who here wants to do more of the actual, live present, who here is the artist? Who here is, right, cool. And then who here are writers? Potential songwriters, and who here are promotion writers? Who can sell ice cream to an Eskimo? See, I got that. I want to talk to you later.
That's right. You have to do that. You have to be able to put your hand up and say that you can do that.
Yeah. Because each one of you has that skill that the other person really needs. And the one thing that I will say, and I'm just kind of blurting out a whole bunch of different nuggets, because over the years, you know, you kind of bang up against the wall and you think, well, I wish somebody had told me sooner. And that is, if you are at all related to the creative process, learn how to write a good song. You don't have to be the best at it, but learn how to write a good song and know what that means on a publishing side of it. Know that that creative property right is worth its weight in gold, because it doesn't matter if you perform it. If somebody else, if I don't know, Celine Dion sings your song, and I'm picking an oldie, because she still appeals worldwide to everybody. Every time that song is sold and played, you will make money, and you can be old and crotchety, and that's fine. You know, that is really the golden end of the rainbow here, to be able to actually own something that you've created. If you're a playwright, do you have a question? Or?
Yeah, real quick. If you are the songwriter, then when you die, like, is that negotiated in your contract? What happens after that? Does it go to your family?
It usually goes to your family,
okay,
unless you assign it otherwise. And there's usually like a 30-year copyright, like, you know, life of that. I believe that's what it is.
Monica, can we back up for a second?
Sure.
I want to ask you about something you said. Quick show of hands, how many people here know who Dallas Austin is? Okay, for those of you who don't, Dallas, he has been extremely successful behind the scenes, both as a writer and producer. And one time,
Columbus, Georgia.
A native of Columbus, Georgia. And the way that Dallas told me he first got into the business was he stole a cell phone that was probably like about as big as this out of the car, and then drove to school holding the broken cell phone. I probably drove in so that it looked like he was somebody. Anyway, that might have been, I'm not, yeah. Anyway, but his didn't dump little dot paper. You like that? I put that there as one of my props. But I have a legitimate question about this, and Monica said. So Dallas, though, has been hugely successful as the artist that Monica mentioned, and many others, both as a writer and as a producer. And one time I was over, he wasn't home, but somebody that worked for him took me by his house. We were at the studio, and we needed to go by and pick something up. And so while we're over there, he mentioned to me that Dallas at that point had been successful enough that at that point in time, this is several years ago, that his project had sold over 70 million records, which I'm sure has been surpassed by that point. Or that could have just been some talk, but it's a lot of them. But my question to you, Monica, is how is it possible that even at that stage of Dallas's career, when he had already done a couple of really successful things, that his studio was tanking financially?
Someone wasn't managing something properly. I mean, part of the real, I'll back up again and say the creative process is somewhat amorphous. It's like a cloud, you know, like you see it one day and then it moves 15 minutes later and you try to decide where it's going. And so the idea of managing creative people is like herding cats. You got to just have the right treats out. And part of that is it's really the idea of being able to say, you know what, if you're a nighttime person, and we had to make $60,000 be available every month. We had to collect 60 grand to pay all the bills, including leases, salaries, insurance, blah, 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 lights, rent, mortgage, all that stuff, in order to be able to cover our studio costs. And so how do you create that? That means you have to bill 100 in hopes that you're going to actually receive 60. So no matter what of these ventures you do, think bigger, like, you know, create as much, you know, potential revenue as you can, and know that you're going to collect half of it. And you'll collect the other 30% in the next 90 to 120 days, and that last maybe 10% you may never see. That's not 50. Anyway, you get the point. You know, the idea is that you've got to think ahead of time, and when management isn't set up, when the treats aren't right for the kiddies to follow, that means that it's all just going to go away. They're going to just scatter and do whatever the heck they want. And so, in the case of this recording studio, your time is the most valuable element. You've got 24 hours. How are you going to break that down to make money and have people stay on it and be responsible and accountable for what they're doing? Well, you set up a schedule. People want to do a lockout. They want to come in whenever they want, and they want to leave. Well, you know what? That's going to cost you. It's going to cost you more money than that same amount of time if I set it up from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. or 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. So how do we work it? And if you're a nighttime person, then let's get you in that nighttime slot. How about that? And guess what? If you give me cash, I'm going to even give you a 10% discount, because now I've got my cash flow going. I can count on this. Like, you got to be smart about how you handle what's happening. If the daytime slot isn't what everybody wants, then you discount it a little bit, and you get people in there. And the idea of keeping it flowing, like keeping the work going, means that other people will see. It's like a big old tumbleweed, you know, it just starts to collect. So that, you know, when I'm sure all of you get to a point where you're like, you're totally uninspired, you're unmotivated, you don't want to do your homework, you don't want to go out, you don't want to do anything, you just want to hang out. But once you start doing something and you start getting busy, then everybody calls. You're like, well, you know, what am I supposed to do? And the idea of going back and prioritizing, like, what makes most sense for you in that moment is the same thing as what makes sense for that project that you're handling, how to book that band. Did I do all the advancing for that particular show, or did I forget to figure out where to tell the band that they can change? And even if that means having to go to the bathroom instead of having some kind of green room. Like, create lists for yourself. I don't know, do you all do that now? I mean, I know this sounds like really basic, but it's one of the most, I probably have years worth of, you know, if I'm not going to lose my battery on my piece of paper. You know, people call me kind of geeky, but, you know, if I write it down, I can always go back to it. And in fact, if I put a date on it, it even helps more. But creating those checklists for yourselves really gets your brain thinking in, what do I have to do? And if things don't work out, so what? In the sense of, don't get down on yourself. Just know that there's another day, and it's going to be, it will happen again. Like, you know, just start over. Pick yourself back up, brush it off, go do it again, because it's going to happen. You're going to get beat up. People are not going to agree with you. In fact, they're probably good. If you're really doing your job, they're really going to dislike you at times. And that's definitely part of the truth of that. Yes?
You were speaking about how following your gut feelings, you know, goes to men and all that. Who was it? I lost it. Dallas.
Well, following my gut and hearing somebody, like the realness of the request.
Yeah, I feel like in the music business, from what we've been learning, it comes down to a lot how you read people.
Yeah.
And can you maybe speak more about how you've been successful or unsuccessful in kind of reading those relationships and how they turn out?
Sure. I will also say that that you have to be able to stay open-hearted, because people are going to say things that aren't really always pleasant to hear. And being a woman in the business, even though I don't see that as a bad or a good thing, I just see it as the way that I am. There are things that happen, and truly being on the road, when I was road manager for the band Rehab for a while, I tour managed them and road managed. That was the most sexist part of the business I have ever been in. You know, I mean, guys coming up to me and being like, "Girl," it's like, everybody. What are you going to do with that? You know, and I'm bringing out microphones. Like, it's not like I'm standing there counting money. You know, like. You know, you get
I want you to all see how happy Tom is that just happened.
I want you to look at what color David is. Better yet, now.
But back to the question of, you know, how to read people. That goes back to having a good internal compass, you know, like being able to, you know, when the tsunami hits and everybody wants what they want and you know you can't deliver it all at the right time for them, to be able to, I don't know if you do yoga, I should not recommend things that aren't, anyway, that you do yoga, if you need a beer, if you need to be able to relax, whatever that internal peace point is, you need to go there. That's the place from which you can make good decisions. You know, I will say that the way to do it is to have those series of questions in your head. Like, what is that thing for you that's a tell? Like, if you play cards, someone blinks, I mean, that's a really bad example, scratches their eye, you know that they're faking you out. And there are so many creative ways that business deals are structured that you have to, most importantly, figure out who's paying for it. Who's the real client in here? If I'm talking for, like I recently did something with David at his studio where I wasn't paying for the session or the studio time, but I had to make sure that all the business was clear so that he got paid. And he could have done that, but if you're known to be consistent and you're known to have good boundaries, that's like the first thing that people are attracted to and wanting to do business with you, is to be able to say, okay, there's no crap here. I know exactly who to call, and if I can't get you that answer, then we won't do the deal. You know, if people are talking to you about how much money they're going to make you, or I don't know, it's like a sour taste in your mouth or in your stomach, don't just ask enough questions so that you get the feedback returned to you that says, yeah, I can trust this or not. The other part is, if it's part of a bigger project, if it's a whole album or if it's just one song, even if it means somebody interning for you, make small deliverables, you know, and give them small goals to reach, and if it seems like it's working, then expand your reach into that person or into that project. I don't know if that helps, because I've definitely made the bad choices too, where somebody seemed like it was legitimate, and if you have a lot to lose, don't do it. If you have just a little to lose, then you can move forward. I don't know if that's a really good example.
The ones that turn out to be more like of a bad example, did they focus more on like present interests, or was it more promises, like you said, you know, like, I don't know if you meant like watch out for like, you know, oh, I can probably do this for you, or this is what's going to come of me.
Yeah.
What would you say turned out to be the better experience? People that focused on like what they wanted to do then, or what they were going to give you later, like what you were.
No, right now, exactly. If you can get people to show up, like for example, if I said to you, if you said to me, hey, I am a really good writer, and I looked at your website and man, those bios really need some improvement, I could do this for you. I would say to you, oh really? Here's one. Try one. Let me see how you do. If you like it, I'm going to pay you for it. Those kinds of deals, to be able to not accept somebody quite like you want to give them a chance, and they want to give you, even if you're presenting an idea, you know, take it one step at a time. Offer it to them, hey, well, if you don't want me to manage the whole thing, let me do this part and see how you feel. Why don't we talk in 30 days? Like, keep giving people something to shoot for, whether you're the one offering the deal or taking the deal. You know, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking on that again, like the good choices you made definitely set you up from what I read and put you where you are now, which is great. But what about those maybe bad choices? Do you think those set you back at all, or did you kind of just take those as learning experiences?
Yeah. There are, I guess I might even be kind of strange in my philosophy, but I feel like I'm really not going to leave my back completely uncovered, you know, in the sense that I'm still going to, even if I make choices that are maybe not the best ones, that yeah, I do learn, and they're bad choices when you actually don't learn the lesson, you know, and in that, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is to be consistent. Like, even if you can't do it all, like, call people back, respond to them. I can't emphasize that enough. There are so many brilliant people. It could be everybody from installing an HVAC to somebody who says, I can mix a record in 5 hours and do a great job. If they don't, see? Whatever that is, call. Like, if you can't do it, call. Or say, hey, look, I'll get to it tomorrow. Don't leave people in the dark, please. And that goes for any part of this business. If you've been hired to do something and you can't quite deliver, call them, email them. They might be mad, but at least they know you're going to be accountable for what your decision has been. I think, you know, like there is the business side to this, and then there's the personal philosophy side to this, and I think that, I don't know, I kind of keep it as the C words, and I mean that in all best sense, but, you know, if you can continually have courage, meaning if you're able to follow through on your thought and your idea, and try to make it happen, whatever it is, that's a big one. If you can have compassion, because, you know, when somebody else fails and you're sitting next to them, it's not a good feeling to kind of be told that you're wrong, even though you really want to. You know, I think the other piece that is important, especially if you feel like you're stuck, like if you get to a point where, as a musician, like as a band member, or as somebody who's a manager, go do something charitable. I know it sounds goofy, but if you were to say, I'm going to play for the old folks home and play sing-along guitar songs, whatever it is, just the process of you being creative and productive, it starts to generate this whole other sense of well-being that then remotivates yourself, and you start to see new kind of possibilities and solutions. Like right now, I've got, like when I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, oh, I'm talking to you guys, and I hope you understand that it's so cool to have people who are in the business. Like where I was going to school, nobody talked about the application of how hard it was to actually make it work. And if any of you are planning to start your own business, make use of the resources here at the school or at some of the government organizations, even like the Small Business Association, those kind of things. That are, it sounds really dry and boring, but they're really helpful to get your thoughts on the right path, without kind of going to the other extreme. But I'm sitting here going, wow, this is such a great opportunity, and I hope that I'm able to impart something of, some kind of knowledge or some little tidbit that might make it make sense for you. But I've got, like at the time that I'm talking right now, I've got a writer and a producer headed to Moscow. They're working on a number of projects where we had to figure out, by the way, if you've ever tried to go to Russia, they don't make it very easy. Like, you have to, not only do you have to spend a lot of money, but because we make it difficult for Russians to come here, they make you jump through hoops just to get the visas. So, note to self, depending on what country your band might be going to, or you decide to travel to, or you are even going to write, maybe you're going to go write something with some other people, first of all, never check off this box that says, are you here to work? You're always here for pleasure, because they will then come after you, because like, well, if you have work, then you have a whole other series of things. But always go online and look to see what kind of visa you need, and make sure you have a passport. These are really simple, basic things that make sense for you to have. Does everybody have a passport here? Do I see all yeses or almost? Just get one. It's really worth it, because you never know, in the level of ambition that I'm hoping that you guys have, that you'll be traveling, because this music market isn't going to just be here. So right now, if one of you had a clue into the Chinese market, have any of you looked online to see what China likes? No, right? What kind of music do they like? What are they listening to? Where is there an opportunity to kind of target the whole world? And they have a huge consumption rate, and they have a huge piracy rate too. There is a way to make money off of it. But target your market. If you guys are a rock band and you know that you're going to do well in the Southeast, how do you expand up into the Northeast? How do you go out into the Midwest? Get your social media platforms going, Facebook, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Don't just put it out there. Actually tweet on other people's, like retweet people, comment on other people's sites so that everybody starts to engage. I mean, we were just talking about this earlier, but one of the engineers that I handle, his name is Graham Marsh, he took Ben Allen's role with CeeLo, because once Ben Allen was another guy that I managed, once they finished the Gnarls Barkley record and Crazy became big, Ben was like, okay, I'm going to be a producer, and I think you might see him later on this year. But Graham Marsh kind of stepped into his shoes. He's also a producer-engineer. But they've been working on this record for over 2 years. Do you know what that means for the record company? That means that the iron wall of pressure comes slamming down on the artist, and an artist does not want a record company telling them what to do. But you've now spent many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and somewhere they have to have product to put out. Whether it's on the internet or whether it's physical CD product, they've got to have something to basically pay the bank back. And so what happened? Does everybody love that FU song? I mean, that FU song, and I just love being able to make reference to that, is one of those catalyst pieces that the record company intentionally threw out there to start to get interest from the buying public so that CeeLo could get hot. what's happened is that Europe, because they don't have the same radio restrictions, airplay restrictions, are able to play it on air. And probably not everybody understands what FU means.
Just quick show of hands. Does everybody know this song?
If you don't, just Google. I mean, it's really worth it just to Google it, because it's become, it's such a appeals to everybody type of song in the sense that it's like, oh what, you didn't want to stay with me, I see you, and fuck you then. Basically.
It's a great song, and I got into a conversation with somebody about it the other day who I think would have no interest in CeeLo or his style of music, and is probably of a generation where they would at least be hesitant to admit that they like a song that has, a vulgar word in the title, like that. But there was somebody else who was at the table, and I asked him, "Have you heard the song?" The guy said, "Yes." I said, "And what about it?" He goes, "It is a great song." And it is a great song. It's unbelievably catchy. If you've not heard it, as Monica said, you just need to Google CeeLo.
Or YouTube it, yeah.
Right. Now we both said it.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, is that it's caught on. It's virally caught on, and this is what you want to create for yourself. And I'll go back to this idea, which is, if you're not working for someone, find something that you love and create that buzz. Right now with technology works for and against us right now. You can get a cheap camera and somebody with some editing skills and create video content that really does make things happen. And that FU thing blew up to the point where the video itself were just words. And you follow and you're like, wow, now I actually know the lyrics to the song, and I'm listening to it. And then you YouTube it, and do you guys know the movie Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah.
There's a mashup of that song with a scene in Shawshank Redemption.
There's also one of Say Anything. I found the whole webpage. It was like, movies that would have been improved by CeeLo's song. And where he's like holding up the stereo and it's just CeeLo playing.
And one, they also did a mashup to Dirty Dancing.
Yeah.
With what's his name, Swayze, and they're in the scene dancing. It's like, okay. But so what's happened though is that in Europe, this has gone number 1. Number 2, I think the lowest it is like number 6. And so, oh my God, now the feeding frenzy for what CeeLo's got has been pitched up, and this whole marketing campaign, this whole promotion piece, if any of you are good at that, you will be rich for life, because the ability to see the innate value in something and promote it is a skill that most people don't have. And so everybody here has a way to be able to contribute to this business in some weird way. And if any of you then decide you're going to go to law school and be an entertainment attorney, all I can say is God bless you. Because that's a really tough line. But here's the thing. They're getting ready to do this tour to follow up CeeLo, and my job, because I've got Graham Marsh, who is his engineer and co-producer, which is called in a little thing that they have called Gray Area.
Did he do Goody Mob stuff?
And did CeeLo do Goody Mob?
No, Marsh.
Graham, he did not. He has done current Goody Mob stuff, but not old Goody Mob stuff.
Did he do the Falconors too?
He did. Falconors. Oh my God. In fact, there's a song on there called Falcon Wizzy, because Wizzy does it. And the wizard being Graham. Yeah.
I mean, the thing with the CeeLo song is it's an awesome song. It's really catchy, but did it really take that much viral marketing with him because of his involvement with Goody Mob and with Gnarls Barkley? I mean, you guys kind of been around the block, it seems like. So it's I guess the way you're talking about it kind of makes it seem like they had to do a lot of work to pitch him as a solo artist, but...
No, I should rephrase it. Let's just say that a lot of songs were recorded. I'm going back to the back end of this, which is in his body of work, which has a mixtape, because those are the songs that didn't make the record but are awesome songs. They just didn't fit the kind of flow for that particular record. So they put out a mixtape to generate hype. It's going really well. But then they put someone at the record company, and I will give the record company credit for this one, said that's the song, let's do it. And when that went out, that's how the viral marketing then helps CeeLo's process. They put it out to key tastemakers, So you're right, it wasn't a huge thing with that particular song, but after they saw that the other stuff wasn't catching on, they decided, okay, we got to do one big one, like, you know. And but
Is he with different labels for Gnarls Barkley, for Goody Mob, for, you know, CeeLo, you know, like,
yeah,
so he has all that kind of stuff hanging up, I guess.
yeah. And that's a very diplomatic kind of question. But yeah, and in fact, the way that the A&R guy is, the songs that the A&R folks in England picked, they're very different than the ones that were picked here for the U.S. So, and the way that he'll be promoted and set up will be very different than they'll be here in the U.S. too. And at the same time, you know, Ben Allen just finished an Australian act called Cut Copy. He also finished producing groups called Matt and Kim. Do you guys know them from Brooklyn? And then Deer Hunter, which is also another band that David had worked with. And so I have these alt-rock DIY kids, and working with them is totally different. And this is the part about, going back to the gut feeling, the question back there is, culturally, everyone has something different that they want to be assured of. And the DIY folks, the people who are all do-it-yourself, like let me do everything from the beginning to the end, those people want to be told, you're right. You know what, your idea is a good idea, but let me add something to it. Then you've got the people who are the stars. You know, Alicia Keys was very easy to work with. Mariah Carey, not so much. Patti LaBelle is the best cook on the planet. Like, there are people like that who you just set them up and they go. And it's amazing to have that interaction and that experience with them. And then you have the band where some member is going to get kicked out. And this record is the thing that's going to make or break that person. And you can't tell the drummer that he sucks. You can't do it because he's going to be really upset and quit the band. And you really need him for the tour that you set up. So the approach to each of these things is like know your market, like know who it is you're talking to. You're not always right. That's one of the biggest things in this business. You're not right, and you can't teach people lessons. They're not going to listen anyway. Just stay your course, have your boundaries, make sure that people know how to relate to you, and who's paying the bill. You know, at the end of the day, that's where we still come back to who's paying. You.
How can you set up a tour for a band where you know the drummer is no good?
How do you, well, usually it was the ego of the band that originally said we can go on this tour. And then the bass player slept with the drummer's girlfriend, and so then the drummer decided, this is just static example, what happened. But really, inevitably, bands are going to, engage. They're kind of like little orbits, you know? They're little planets that have other satellites roaming around, and sometimes, they pull off and go to the side. And really, I know everybody doesn't want to hear it, but bands are not democracies. As much as everybody should have input. I know you're not going to agree with me. But
I agree. I very much agree with you.
But there's got to be a sense of leadership and the clarity from what that is. And if you run your own company, have the clarity to be able to tell people even if they don't like it. So if you have a band member who's not stepping up to the plate like they need to, the same thing. So that's a short-term thing. Look, man, I need you to bring your shoes the next time you come.
Yeah.
I need you to bring your shoes and your strings the next time you come. Each one of those, every time, just make it clear, I'm not trying to be an ass here, but if you don't do this, we got to say no.
Yeah.
You know? But be clear about it. Don't wait.
You can't just tell them to be a better drummer. By the time the tour starts, without kicking him out, unless you have another drummer lined up that knows all the songs, sticky situation.
It is, but if you're really diplomatic, and I'm not saying being sneaky, but you want to have someone else lined up.
That's what I was getting told.
Yeah.
Are you a drummer?
I was talking about me.
So you definitely want to have that lined up. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
But what if you have a situation like that where somebody's not bringing it to the table, but that person is one of the most known members of the band?
Really good question. Then you really have to start playing chess. You have to ask yourself, is that person's knownness, their fame, their merit, is it worth the drama that it's creating? Because it may be better off that you find another solution, that person isn't worth it. On the other hand, sometimes it's really important to be able to address that person and be able to say, okay, what are we going to do here, because we're all uncomfortable. But I think the best policy is usually really for everybody to be sober and in one place at the same time. And really, truly, and be in a place where it's nobody's studio, home, or basement. Go someplace else and have a conversation and have everybody ready to say, this is what we need to talk about. It's probably not what you want to hear, but,
No, it's just my sister's boyfriend is in a band, and he's kind of managing them, but they have a violinist. He's from Australia and has to go back all the time to get his visa renewed because it's not set up well, and he is always referenced in the newspapers, saying that he has the best stage presence and he's an amazing violinist, but he doesn't go to sleep until 5 o'clock in the morning, so he's never at rehearsal or anything.
Well, I don't know any violinist that's made or broken a band.
It's this really weird band, but they're really well known in Princeton.
All right. Yeah.
Is just out of curiosity, is he a side man or is he one of the primary?
No, he's one of the primary.
Right.
Is he the star of the band?
Well, he's when people hear about the band, they know him.
Right.
Because he's apparently most eccentric on stage and everything.
He's right on the cusp of some gray area, because if there's somebody that's on the side, no matter how great they are, if they're causing a problem with the chord, they're making it difficult for the bands to move forward. Shows aren't going down right. There's tension on stage. Everything's going to suffer, and they got to go. If it's the star of the centerpiece star of the act, then I guess your choices are to quit because they're going to be doing their thing. But what you're talking about is that you need to go meet together and it's a situation.
Yeah, or go over. The biggest thing is really for people to meet when they're sober. No, I'm serious. It's just, it's such a part of the band culture or group culture or whatever, to be able to just kick back and have drinks, and really people need to be able to have their wits about them, because it's affecting everybody else's life too, not just that person. Yes?
Well, this is weird that we're talking about this, because I just had to kick somebody out of our band yesterday, and so it really sucks because they're friends. And my question was, obviously you're talking about business stuff, so friendship maybe doesn't apply, but where do you go after that if he's still our friend and a musician, trying to help him get going? And
can I ask you why you kicked him out?
Like you said, he wasn't really the focus of it. He actually hadn't played a lot for a while, and he tried to come back, and it was just not working.
I think it's okay to be able to say we're better as friends, let's hang out. You're welcome to the gig, we'll get you in the mood. But the other thing is that if he does something well, you can also always invite him up to do a guest performance with you if you wanted.
I get worried that he's going to plop down and put his keyboard at a rehearsal and then be let's play let's plan our band stuff, Really my question there was I took, every situation was taken care of, and he's still our friend and stuff, but I want, how much involvement, is okay without him trying to come back and, without him feeling like we're trying to include him and be in the band.
Let it go for a while?
Yeah.
Let some time pass?
Okay.
It's like a relationship. After you say no more. No, let a little time pass, so that he doesn't feel like it's really still his thing. I know you feel bad or badly, and in that case you might just go have some beers with him. Just go out and do something socially that you'd normally do with him, and include him in that and leave him. What do you think about that answer?
I think it's a good answer, and I had a similar experience a couple of years ago. I had to fire somebody from the studio who I was friends with at the time and still am friends with today. And what this person did is he violated one of my absolutely unassailable rules, which is no note of someone else's music ever leaves the studio unless they specifically told you, yeah, well, why don't you, and there are times where the artist looks at the assistant and says, hey, can I give you a copy of this to put in your car and ride around and listen to it, tell me what you think? That happens. But you never, ever say, man, that Wilco song sure is cool there, and I'm working on that, I'll just make a copy and listen to it myself. So I was in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, working on a record, got a phone call from someone who was a crew member of the band I was working with. It was not Wilco, I'm just using it as an example to shield the truth. But anyway, so this guy called me and said, I just ran into Eric Carter down at the Georgia bar. He told me that your boy just came in there and played him the new such and such song on his iPod. And I knew what had happened was that he had decided, I'm going out. I might have a little better luck with the ladies tonight if I've got an extra bullet in my pocket. And anyway, so he goes and has, hey, look what I got. You can't actually have this. I only have this. So he played these demos of this band who are extremely well known. And it was one of those things where you can never do that. It was deal breaker, automatic. So I was riding back Muscle Shoals with a musician who is extremely experienced, and I asked him, what do you think about this? And he said, and he knows this guy and likes him, and he said, you got to fire him. And so then while I was over there, I ran into my friend Aruna Pink, who's a singer-songwriter, and she's super experienced and a very forgiving, open-minded person. And I asked her the situation, and she said, fire him. He's got to go. And I was like, that was my instinct, was he's got to go. But I wanted to calm down a little bit first. So I did, and so I told him, it's like, that can never happen, so give me the iPod. I mean, you could have put it on the internet. If you did, we're in big trouble. The other thing is that if the artist ever, he didn't know, if the artist ever found out and they said, well, what did you do about it? Well, I didn't do anything about it. They're never coming back. So 2 days after I fire him, I show up to the studio at 9 o'clock in the morning, and guess who's standing in my parking lot with a box of donuts and a couple of cups of coffee? Hey, you need any help cleaning up around here? And I was like, no, I'm cool. I'm kind of just going in. I'm just grabbing my, I kind of lied. I'm just going in to get a check, but going to the bank. I'll see you later. A couple of days, but I did not communicate clearly and effectively. And the next day, he's back over there again. Hey, I know you saw you got the session coming up. I was wondering if I could help. And I finally had to tell him, I was like, this is like your girlfriend dumps you and you go to her job and hang out. How many times did it really, how many times do you really need to go to the downtown taco stand just when she happens to be working the cashier? So I basically told him that and said, we're still friends, and at some point down the road, if there ever is an opportunity for professionally us to work together again, that, as a relation to Chase Park, that decision will be made by Andy Lemaster and myself, and that's it. And you don't have any vote in us allowing you back in every year.
I want to add to that, because of the internet and people on their computers all the time. There was an intern in the session, and one of the other big no-nos in studio work in the world is that interns are absolutely necessary, and they are not allowed to give opinions. You're really not, and you're really rarely invited. But even if you do, you just need to smile and nod. It's really not. It's not really your thing. It's really stucky, but that's the way it works. Well, this one decided he'd been around long enough and was comfortable enough with CeeLo that he was going to hook up a friend with CeeLo. So he gets online in the studio, on the computer, and because there's a microphone on his computer, is talking to his friend while CeeLo is singing. And so they're hearing all the new material. And this is an intern everybody loved. He's a good guy. And he did the big no-no, like, how can you've been here for 8 months. How can you let anything go out? And you're on the internet. Like, who knows who's hacking into this? How can you play somebody's material that they're just working on? It's not mixed, it's not finished, it's not anything. And same thing. The engineer came out of the room once he knew it was. He was totally white. Oh my God, Monica, CeeLo just saw that the intern was broadcasting what he said to a friend. I was like, oh my God, because then all of us could lose our jobs, because that's a reflection of me too, because I'm allowing this intern to be in the session. and say he wasn't as good a friend as, you know, David's case was, but I had to nicely say to somebody we really treasured, dude, what were you thinking? And do you know, he didn't even get it. That's the hardest part. He didn't realize that you cannot play other people's material. Even if you're not signing a non-disclosure every day that you walk into a studio or a band rehearsal or into a movie set, you cannot talk about it. You can't talk about it. Or you can't broadcast it, certainly. And the act of firing him, I had to do it like that afternoon, and I wanted to do it with an open heart and just say, dude, I'm really sorry. You know, we referred him over, but we had to keep telling that he's going to make some inappropriate choices. And the whole thing of like what's appropriate and what's not appropriate based on the situation, whether it's a live show or in a company, just ask the question beforehand. Like if you think it's not a good idea, just ask somebody. It's really worth it to suck it up and ask, you know, and to be clear. The whole clarity thing, it's better to hurt somebody's feelings and to let them know right from the start. You'll be respected much more than if you're just trying to be nice, because it doesn't work.
We got about 10 minutes left here, so do we have any questions? Tom, anybody you want to hear from in the class?
Kelsey.
Oh no.
Hi, I'm Kelsey.
Hi, Kelsey.
I'm still kind of confused, like, what milk money does.
That's a really good point, because I just jumped right into it. And that is actually awesome that you say that, because that was one of the things that I didn't do, and I normally do, is to say I'm a music production company, that's what I do. And all you guys, the best thing you could do is figure out what your elevator pitch is. You know, whatever it is that you specialize in do best, that's exactly what needs to happen. So thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, we manage audio engineers, producers, and musicians at a couple of studios, and we make the recording process, hopefully, easy. We're a one-stop shop. So if you need a guitar player or a drummer or a timpani player or a tuba player, I'll find you one. Yep.
What do you look for in your clients, like, to actually get them on your roster?
Okay, and another good thing that you said is I have two sets of clients. One is the record companies, managers, and then the other are the clients that we represent. A lot of times it comes word of mouth. Some of these guys are guys that I came up with in Dallas's world. So some people have been with me for 8 or 10 years already. But I would say competency, honesty, and integrity are the big ones. And I know that sounds really big and broad, but if it becomes a vibe thing, because I'm your family. Like once I'm representing you and we're together, I may help you with fixing a DUI or back taxes. Pay your taxes. Pay your taxes. You guys do not want to be in a position where the government says, oh, by the way, here it is, penalties, interest, and the principal. This is what you owe. Because the only thing you may get out of is the penalty, so interest and the thing you always have to pay. So pay taxes. It becomes a real relationship. Over the years, what I try to do is say, my internal barometer is, who can I invite to my house for dinner? Like, are they going to be able to just show up as a human being and have conversation with me? That doesn't mean that, you need to drive my car. But we need to be able to talk, and you need to be able to say to me, God, I'm having troubles because, my kid is sick, and don't be afraid, or don't just use your kid to not do work. You know what I mean? So it really, with all of the music business stuff, you spend so much time together with people that the idea of having family, but that means that you can fight too. You've got to be able to fight with them. You got to be able to know that if you disagree, that it's not going to wound somebody. Yeah. That's helpful. Yeah.
Tom, okay.
Chris Davis.
Wait, did you call somebody?
What are you asking?
I'm asking, like,
you're
did you
good.
call somebody?
No, you're good to go.
Chris Davis.
All right,
Oh.
Chris Davis.
That's me. What is like the idea behind, I guess, the name Milk Money, and how did you come up with that?
I went to Catholic school for 12 years, and the second largest state, otherwise, second smallest state, called Delaware. And I went to Catholic school, and we didn't have cafeterias. And so we had to save milk money for next week's milk. And so when I first came down and started working for Dallas, because the studio was in a state of bankruptcy, I started a company. I bought gear that I knew the studio was renting, and I made a little extra pocket change to supplement my salary. It was all legitimate. I even gave the studio back basically their 15% for actually being able to let me do this, and that's where milk money came from.
Now you're up.
Okay, cool. I just want to know, you mentioned that you're like an economic, like you came to school in economic, like what kind of pushed you towards the music industry with an economics major?
I was one of those kids who kind of could do a lot of different things. I was a musician, I also played sports, so I did all that kind of stuff. But the real truth of it is that I was in a head-on car crash. I graduated from the university and was going to work in the Deutsche Bank in Frankfurt and the Securities Exchange, and I ended up down in the Bahamas with a group of girls, having a great time, and got into a car crash the first night I was there. And in my recovery, I couldn't go to Germany, I couldn't do that stuff. I broke my face, I broke my eye orbits and my nose and my blah, blah, blah. And so in my recovery, I felt kind of weird going out during the day because I was like yellow and purple for a long time. You know, and you just kind of feel, especially at like 22, you just kind of feel a little self-conscious about that. So my boyfriend at the time, I had gotten him into a band, and I just started taking care of the band stuff at night. You know, I started reading through contracts, started hanging lights and running live sound because the guy got so drunk he couldn't hear. You know, so I just kind of by default figured it out, you know. And it was the most unusual way to get into this business. If you had asked me at your age, what was I going to be doing? I was going to be an international business. I didn't know what that meant, but
you are.
I knew. That's right. But I knew. But yeah, that was the story. Yeah.
Had you ever run sound before? Just out of curiosity.
No.
How did that go?
There was a lot of feedback. No, as the manager, I would just stand at the soundboard with him, and I didn't do that right away, you know, but I just would notice that the high end would just get louder and louder during the course of the night because he was getting drunker, and it would just be killing me because I wasn't drinking because of meds and stuff that I was taking, and being in a dark place, I was just watching what he was doing. I just made myself learn. What I would see is I would look at the piece of gear, and then at the manufacturer's name, and then I'd figure out a way to figure out what it did, if it was a compressor or an EQ or a gate, and what did an amplifier do. I didn't even know what a drum head was at that time. I was like, ooh, boy, am I learning a lot. And I just faked it, you know, I don't mean like I was lying, but I just decided I was going to jump in and, you know, figure it out. If these guys could do it, I definitely can. You know. Yeah.
I have a question. When you went with the studio that was about to go into bankruptcy, how come you took that job as opposed to going somewhere that was really successful or staying in a comfortable spot? Why did you take that?
Because I like the challenge. I think I also saw that Philadelphia, in the market that I was in, was a satellite and would always be a satellite of New York, and that things weren't going to change unless I made a change. I could have gone to New York, but my gut just said, why not do something, why not also be in a group of people that I don't know any of this. I don't know these people in any way, shape, or form. So why don't I give it a try? The skill I can apply anywhere, because if it doesn't work, then I just move somewhere else. You know, like kind of having the willingness to go out of your comfort zone.
Anybody else? Tom, you got anybody you want to hear from? Oh, Allie, go ahead. Somebody out.
Guys, you can just do earmuffs.
Question.
Yeah, you don't have this problem anymore, but as a woman, how do you prove that you can do what men can do? Because it's often...
You just do it better. No, I mean, really, you stay educated, and if you don't know something, you ask somebody who does. And I think the biggest thing is to not shoot yourself in the foot. Like, be able to speak clearly, and in the subjects where you're not the expert, say that you'll get back to them. you know, and don't pretend, like if it's, especially if it's a legal thing or potentially leads to something legal, just, it's better to say nothing in that moment, you know, just to, and also don't get brash about being a woman. Just be confident in who you are. You know, like that's the best thing. And don't sleep with everybody to get a good position. Because people still do it. I couldn't believe it. What, really? You did? That's gross. Oh.
All right, on that note, I want to talk a little about a live show right here. This is a great, you have to know when that moment that you've got the crowd and it's time to wrap up. So before you start packing up your stuff though, there's all the questions that I had for Monica. I didn't get to any of them because there's so much other good stuff where we went. So I think that Monica should come back maybe next semester. Yes? And other than that, I guess